In the beginning, the world was full of life, full of beauty. The mountains stood tall, the rivers flowed gently, and the animals roamed free in the forests. But over time, something began to change. People started to forget what was good and right. They became selfish, dishonest, and violent. The world, once full of peace, was now filled with cruelty and corruption. It wasn't the world that God had intended. His heart was deeply saddened by all the evil he saw. And so, he decided that something needed to be done to cleanse the earth and make it right again. But in the midst of all the darkness, there was one man who stood out, Noah. Noah was a good man, a man who walked with God and tried to live in a way that pleased him. He was honest, kind, and faithful. While the rest of the world turned away from God, Noah stayed true to his beliefs. Because of Noah's faith and his goodness, God chose him for a very special task, a task that would change the course of history forever. One day, God spoke to Noah. "Noah, I have decided to cleanse the earth with a great flood. The world is full of evil, and I will wash it away. But you, Noah, I will save. You and your family are righteous in my eyes. I want you to build an ark, an enormous boat, big enough to hold you, your family, and 2 of every kind of animal. When the flood comes, the ark will protect you." God gave Noah specific instructions: how long, how wide, and how tall the ark needed to be. It would take years to build, but Noah trusted God completely. Noah didn't hesitate. He gathered his family, and together, they began building the ark. It wasn't an easy task. The boat was massive, big enough to hold every kind of animal on earth. It was a huge job, and it took many years. The people around Noah laughed. "What are you doing, Noah? You're crazy." They mocked. "There's no flood coming. Why are you wasting your time?" But Noah didn't listen to them. He kept building. He trusted that God's plan was the right one. Finally, the day came. God told Noah to gather the animals, 2 of every kind. And so, Noah went out, calling them to the ark. Miraculously, the animals began to arrive, walking in pairs: 2 lions, 2 giraffes, 2 elephants, 2 birds, and even the tiniest ants. It was an amazing sight. Animal after animal, great and small, entered the ark, finding their place inside. And then, the rain began. At first, it was just a few drops, but soon, it became a downpour. The skies opened up, and the waters began to rise. For 40 days and 40 nights, the rain fell without stopping. The earth was flooded, and everything was covered in water. But inside the ark, Noah, his family, and the animals were safe. The ark floated above the rising waters, carrying them through the storm. Life inside the ark wasn't easy. With so many animals, it was noisy and crowded. But Noah and his family worked hard, taking care of the animals, feeding them, and making sure they had everything they needed. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Even with all that, Noah remained faithful, trusting that God would see them through the storm. Eventually, the rain stopped. The waters began to recede, and Noah knew that it wouldn't be long before the flood would be over. He sent out a raven to see if the earth was dry. But it didn't return. So, Noah sent out a dove. The dove returned with an olive branch, signaling that the earth was healing, that new life was beginning to grow. Finally, the ark came to rest on the mountain. The floodwaters had completely receded, and Noah and his family stepped out into the fresh air. It was a new beginning, a world that had been cleansed and renewed. God made a promise to Noah and all living creatures. He promised that never again would he flood the earth. As a sign of his promise, he placed a rainbow in the sky. Whenever we see a rainbow, we can remember that God keeps his promises. The rainbow reminds us of his love and faithfulness.